Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, and welcome to a little bit of Total War Warhammer 2. So, we're going to be playing this one as the High Elves, which are an interesting faction in a lot of ways there, and they're of course my favorite faction in the game. I'm going to be doing the Tyrion one first. Starts off with a much easier challenge. I am going to be switching over to Techless for another one. We are going to be playing this one on Legendary difficulty, of course, and we are actually on the hardest battle difficulty as well. Not that that really matters too much. The battle difficulty in this game doesn't matter too much. What ultimately matters more is the campaign difficulty, because that's where all the additional difficulty actually comes from, is the sort of limits to your units and stuff like that. So we're going to not be able to use the campaign introductions, which would normally allow us to get a few free units and stuff like that, but instead we're going to go ahead and start the campaign right away. I am going to skip the cinematic at the start here, just because while it's a decent cinematic, it's not too interesting. And Warhammer's not really sort of about these big events. Games Workshop's tried to do a couple big, like, this is the end of the world kind of thing events there, and they've always kind of sucked, because they always have to kind of return to status quo. The exception to that is one time that they didn't, and no one liked that, as far as I know. Yeah, they kind of are stuck in between a rock and a hard place. End Times was pretty bad, not just because the way the characters acted in a really dumb manner, but also because it was just like they were literally ending the setting, so... kind of glad that they basically gave the IP to someone who actually prefers the old way of things rather than the new way of things. In any event, Tyrion is the more martial of the two. Has some pretty decent bonuses to himself, but his overall faction bonuses are pretty mediocre at best. You can build up a pretty strong trade empire and stuff like that and focus on your economy that way, and you start off in a really safe, decent position as Tyrion. The problem with starting off in a really safe, secure position is that it's hard to find legitimate enemies, and I really dislike the sort of mechanic with High Elves where the High Elves sort of all go to war with one another. When they're all sort of fighting each other, it kind of takes away from the fact that they're all supposed to be in one faction, really. It would have been more interesting to me if they were a little bit more like Rome in Total War Attila, where you're this large, broad empire that spans across the globe, because they actually are a globe-spanning empire with fortresses, basically, like, imagine the British Empire, and they've basically got that at this point in the game. So, lots of little things are going to pop up here. We're going to just sort of skip through these as much as possible. So we're going to go ahead, first of all, check our city of Ulthuan. This is our capital city. Going to go ahead and upgrade it. And this is, like, again, one of those things that's a little bit weird, but the High Elves start off way nerfed compared to what they actually were, with just Ulthuan being Prince Tyrion's sort of domain there. And for some reason he's allowed the Glittering Tower and Gariel and the Tower of Lycian to get overrun by Dark Elves. We also have the Shrine of Assyrian being pillaged, which is a little bit strange, but I can sort of see that happening, but I also can't see that happening. It's a bit of a weird one. The Dark Elves wouldn't actually destroy the Shrine of Assyrian because it's sacred to them as well, so if that's how that happened, it's a little bit weird. Caldor's reposed by and large. I think the Dark Elves would totally sack that and then move on, though. But yeah, this is actually supposed to be one of the most fortified areas in the world. You can actually see a really nice attention to detail here. But in Ulthuan, you've actually got the Emerald Gate, the Sapphire Gate, and the Ruby Gate that heads into the inner seas. The Sea of Dreams and the Sea... I can't remember actually the names of the seas here right off the top of my head, but heading towards the Vortex and the Shrine of Assyrian, you have to get past those three gates. Each of them is covered with like hundreds of Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers and Ulthuan Sea Guard, like tens of thousands of Ulthuan Sea Guard. That approach... Well, actually I think it's just thousands. But there's tons and tons of troops just guarding this sort of passes and these gigantic walls as you try to go through here. So there's no navy in the world that can actually get past Ulthuan at this point in time. And I don't think at any point in time would there be a navy that could actually get past Ulthuan. So it's a nice attention to detail, but it doesn't actually have any sort of in-game mechanical effect there, especially because like the gate is kind of open. So in any event, we're going to go ahead and just recruit up a trio of archers here, and that will be our turn. Ulthuan itself, we can sort of deal with it and its massive public order penalty later. There's not a whole ton I can do about that as of right now. Alright, so looks like we can get ourselves some trade agreements. High Elves are actually really likely to get and give trade agreements because they get vision of each other when they do this. Can also potentially try to talk to Safri, but yeah, they're actually at minus 27 all of a sudden. So that's fun. Kothic might be nice. Now, Kothic is a really good one to get a trade agreement with because it unlocks Krace as far as vision goes. Because like I said, you gain vision when you trade with people, so you can keep just trading and sort of gaining vision across more and more of the map. We can also potentially get the Scourge of Cain on our side a bit more, but it's one of those weird things. Alright, so we've gotten as many of these as we can. Evresi, I think that we might want the non-aggression pact here. Now, I want to figure out who Safri dislikes. If I can convince them to go to war with those guys, that would be our ideal. Let's see here. They don't look like they're at war with anybody inherently, but they really dislike Evresi. I think that they dislike Avalorn. They dislike everybody, Jesus. What are their traits here? Diplomatic, wary, guardian, aggressive. I think that aggressive trait is hurting them in the fact that their strength rate, like, eighth strongest faction in the world, is probably not helping that A. But I kind of want to get them a bit distracted so that they're not getting in our way. Maybe get them to declare war on Evresi over there. So, yeah, our goal at this point in time is going to be take out the Tower of Lycian, head to Angariel, take it out as fast as possible, and then reclaim the Shrine of Azurian, and then head down to the Glittering Tower or even Calidor's Repose, depending on what the enemy's doing. Let's go ahead and hit end turn here. Getting those trade agreements early, of course, is going to be nice. It gets us a tiny bit of extra income right off the bat there. So there's sort of two things you can do as the High Elves. You can focus on getting a super general, which requires a crap ton of influence as the High Elves, or you can focus on getting a bunch of heroes, or you can focus on getting a whole bunch of diplomatic allies, and any of those options is pretty powerful as the High Elves. Not necessarily sure which I think is the best per se, but they're all pretty good options. Now, why am I not necessarily worried about Ulthuan here? Ulthuan's garrison is ridiculously strong, as are the walled cities in general, being very, very difficult to actually take out. So they'd have to siege Ulthuan for quite a large number of turns before I'd actually have to worry about them. So what we can do is just go ahead and stomp around with our army, while Ulthuan can sort of look after itself. We can take a look at the garrison here, and we can see that it's got 2 units of Swordmasters of Oath, 4 units of the Ulthuan Sea Guard, 4 units of the Archers, and 2 units of the Silverhelms. This is a ridiculous amount of garrison, and in particular it's a ridiculous amount of stuff that you can put up on the walls that are going to be able to sort of mow down enemy units like machine gun style. So let's go ahead and take out the Tower of Lycian. I have to manual this one because otherwise we lose about half the spearmen, and that's not really acceptable if we're going to then march onto the Tower of onto Angoriel. So I do have to play this one out manually, which really sucks. It should actually be auto-resolving with virtually 0 casualties, because that's what you generally get in this fight. Both Eagle's Claw Bolt Thrower, Tyrion, and the Flamespire Phoenix are all very strong units. I think that a lot of people would recommend getting rid of the Flamespire Phoenix, but this lets you actually do a lot of the stuff that you would want to do a lot faster. It's very useful in sieges and where you just sort of fly it into the enemy archers on the walls, disrupting them from being able to fire back your army while you're getting the ladders ready. And it's also quite useful in its ability to sort of bombard the stuff on the walls, softening them up for the archers. And it's just a good unit all around. It's also one of the better general assassins, since Tyrion isn't really that fast until you can get the horse with him. Malhander. So, not that even, I don't even know if the horse is that useful for Tyrion, because there's a lot of times where you're like sieging or something like that where I find it's a little bit more useful for him to just be able to hop up the wall. It's also kind of weird in that he can carry an entire ladder by himself. It's like a 20-foot tall ladder. Actually, no, that kind of makes sense. He's ridiculously strong. Can like smite demons and dragons and stuff like that, so I guess carrying a really big ladder would not be that hard for him. He's got a one-handed sword swing that's like a cannonball, so any of those legendary lords, or even actually a standard lord in this game, probably could one-hand like a 500-pound ladder or something like that. Anyway, so the High Elves in this game play a lot like factions in some of the older Total Wars, where they just have a ridiculous amount of missile fire and rely heavily on just spears and archers. It's a little bit like Shogun 2 Total War. So we're going to go ahead and just line these guys up here. I don't remember if you guys remember me playing Total War Warhammer 2, or Shogun 2 Total War, but basically all you do in that game is just Why can I not? Oh, that hill is a weird one. Okay. Sure. All you basically do is have the basic 2 units and have them sort of mow down the enemy in gigantic ass numbers. Alright. Let's get this going. So we're going to aim for the center unit here, the Dread Spears. If we fire at them, it sort of hits multiple different units here, and the shots tend to drift off course just a little bit. Also, the AI still aims at sort of the sided unit rather than dead center. It's a little bit better with this type of unit, but it's still not really that accurate. Actually, that was a much more centered shot than I'm used to happening in Warhammer games. I don't know, they seem to have fixed it sometimes, but they don't seem to have fixed it reliably. Alright. Ooh, we've already got 3 kills and only 2 volleys. Normally what happens is you chunk out a ton of their hit points, but don't actually kill anything. And then, later on you sort of worry about the kills. Alright, so we're going to run Tyrion forward here. Alright, there we go. Kind of want to let this guy fire at will here, but doesn't really matter all that much. Alright, and since this is a garrison fight, it doesn't matter at all if I actually stick around to fight this out or chase them down. We're just going to let the end battle hit go for us here. So yeah, just put yourself up in a position with all your arrows firing down, and you'll be able to win as the High Elves pretty much every time against the AI here. I think a lot of people are like used to the ones where they don't really encourage the style, which has been kind of the case in Total War Rome 2, and to a lesser extent Attila. You can actually gun line up in Attila pretty effectively with fairly cheap crossbow/archer units just combined together, actually, and in particular if you just sort of garrison up villages with huge armies of crossbows and archers, you could actually defend off huge Hun hordes. But in Total War Shogun 2 and Medieval 2, you would actually just take huge archer armies, and that's how you would win a lot of the fights, or at least that's how I won most of my fights on the hardest difficulties. Empire, you just take huge gun lines as well of the cheapest sort of line infantry. You wouldn't take the cheapest infantry, but you'd go ahead and take the bog standard infantry. Alright, so here's our options as the High Elves here. Got the ability to simply occupy cities, which is what we're going to be doing here. Loot and occupy. You might do this if you needed a bit of cash, but this is only 395, which is really, really bad. You can sack the city just to gain a bunch of money, but in this case it's only 605. And then there's 230 for plundering and raising it. So this is a really useless option as the High Elves under normal circumstances, but so we're going to go ahead and just occupy. Alright, so that gets us the first city. We can continue upgrading our armies here to a certain extent. So let's go ahead and do that. Grab up Root Marcher, since that's going to be pretty useful for us. Did I find an item? I don't think I did. No, nothing on that particular match, which kind of sucks, but can't expect something nice every time you get in a fight. Get another 2 units of archers and a unit of spears. For Tyrion, the reason that we stick with these guys is because he's got a minus 35% discount to archers and spearmen, as well as Silverhelm Knights, but we can't access the Silverhelm Knights for quite a while, so we'll get that sort of thing a lot later. Let's go ahead and demolish this building here. Check our diplomacy, see what we can manage. Now, we don't have enough points to sort of manipulate anybody's emotions just yet, but that's going to be something that we want to do later on pretty badly. What's this? Maelstrom. Okay, so you can actually go into the ocean and find some things from time to time. I don't see anything that I can look for right now. Oh, there's this, actually. Yeah, so there's a shipwreck over here. It's also a storm, but yeah, it's a bit too far away from anything that I would be interested in. Later on, we might have just generic lord set up to look for that sort of stuff. You can get a fairly cheap one. by just not paying any influence, but I think that what I want to do is potentially get a really powerful lord with a high level of influence cost. Okay, so I'm going to head towards Angariel, get 3 more units, and then be able to attack Angariel a turn after. What should happen here is that they'll actually attack my army across the Strait of Ulthuan there, which again should actually be guarded by a natural garrison, but that would probably be broken if Hiles worked the way that they sort of do in the lore. Same with the Dark Elves. They've sort of got 2 different sects of the Dark Elves. They've got the Cult of Pleasure, which is theoretically a rogue illegal group under Marathai, and then they've got the actual sort of standard Dark Elves under Malekith there. Okay, so I think I'll be in range of Angariel if I stay here. Or I should be. Let's get a unit of spearmen and 2 more units of archers. And that's all we're going to be able to get for quite some time here, but that's perfectly fine. And let's go ahead and grab up our first building here with the plaza. So the plaza lets us get an additional 2 public order and is also a decent income-based building. So Hiles really rely on these kind of plazas and entertainment buildings both for income, since they've got multipliers, as well as for public order. If you get them plopped up in every single city, you can get the public order into the positives without having to have garrison armies or anything like that by a decent amount. Yeah, so these guys are willing to come out and attack us here. Now what I'm hoping happens is he gets pushed back across the straits here. We theoretically got equal numbers, but we'll have to see is if a Great Eagle is more powerful than a unit of Dark Riders. And hint, the Great Eagle, or sorry, the Flamestar Phoenix is indeed a lot stronger than a unit of Dark Riders. A lot stronger than a unit of Dark Riders. So this battle, we do the exact same sort of thing here. We've got sort of more melee forces this time, but again, what we want to do is really just have Tyrion become this big tanky beat stick that stands in the middle and draws all of those melee forces into combat with him. Now the reason this works is because Tyrion has 125 armor, which is way too much for my own archer friendly fire to actually do any damage to him, so I don't have to worry about a few stray arrows hitting him. And also the Dark Elves, if they are firing into the backs of their own troops, their own large formations, they actually deal way more damage to themselves than they do to me. I think that I can get good sightlines and a decent hill if I set up over here, so we're going to do just that. And I can actually have a fairly thick formation. I don't actually need to have the sort of thin down lines in this particular instance here. The reason that I don't need the thin down lines is because our opponent isn't using magic and isn't using war machines, so there we go. Something like this. Figuring out how far to space these spearmen is one of the slightly more tricky things. Have him here, and we'll have our Flamespar Phoenix ready to go over here. The wood is going to be a little bit problematic for us, but nothing too bad. I don't want to fire at this frontline unit here, the Dread Spears, because what will happen is a ton of them will fall short, so we want to fire at one of these center units here. Probably this one, I think. I can't remember which side is better to fire at. Probably this one, actually. So we already fired off one volley. I don't mind that first volley firing as soon as possible, but after that we want to just fire these manually. Manually aimed, rather. Looks like a Dreadlord with a crossbow. Okay, that's a bit weird. One of their units got way too pushed back by getting shot there, so I don't know why that happened, but got a chevron already on our bolt thrower, which is pretty nice. 2 kills, 3 kills. Pretty good. What I do like about this is that like knocks all these guys down, which does slow the unit down. A lot of our shots are actually overshooting this time for some reason. Alright, so here's where the enemy is now getting a bit plastered by arrows. Just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and charge into that. Actually, these Dark Riders were just going to charge into my spears anyway. I should have let them. Alright, aim at these guys. Alright. Switch to that shot over there. Alright, need to get our eagle out of those spears. Don't want them fighting that. Damn it. I'm pretty bad at aiming these things. Not even looking at the unit that I'm dropping it on, but... So the problem here is that one of the units kind of got past our defense here, causing a lot of friendly fire to my spearmen. They're unlike my Tyrion in that they do get killed here in fairly large numbers. Alright, switch these guys back to that. Yeah, they actually managed to get their passive off this time. So they're doing a lot better than they did in the previous fight. Oh yeah, no, keep firing at these guys. Looks like they are going back after Tyrion. And again, like, he's basically just impossible for these units to kill. Blobbed up like this, it's going to be an awful long time before they actually can cause him any sort of relevant damage there. Oh, okay, so these 4 units here, just want to get them back in line here. Don't want them doing anything too reckless. Get these guys back. Alright, so we're going to have to run down at least their general. So I'll be back as soon as we've done that, but I don't need you guys to sit here and watch through all that. Alright, yeah, we'll be back. Alright, so we finished running those guys down. We managed to get the Banner of Eternal Flame. I don't know what, that's just flaming attacks, right? Plus 6% weapon damage as well. I wonder if that applies to arrows. No, it doesn't. That one's just, yeah, so we'll give that to one of our Spear Elf units. Perfectly fine with that. But we've got a couple options here. We can either execute the captives, which is a large number of captives in this particular case. I can replenish my units by a decent amount. In fact, I can get my units back up to full strength, which is kind of probably important here. Or we could take some money. What we're going to do is use forced labor here. And the reason that we want to do that is that I do want to have like a full-on attack once we move to Angariel. It's also likely that I want to run that army down, and since they're going to force march stance, they might make it to the garrison. Ooh, they didn't make it to the city. So this is a double good moment for me. Just perfect positioning, like, could not have asked for better. What I can do here is actually attack them outside of their city, and what's going to happen is that they're not going to be able to actually properly defend from their city, because I'm going to be able to start attacking their army and their garrison outside of the city walls. And then once I rout them, I can then attack the city with a depleted garrison. So that's going to be really, really powerful for us. Raoul is killed in battle. I don't think they're going to have any sort of major defenses left. So let's go ahead and grab up Iron Disciplinarian for the time being. It's just going to get us a little bit more public order, even though we won't be able to use it. And then go ahead and attack this guy. Pretty much full health on everything except for the Flamespire Phoenix, which is a little tiny bit damaged. So these guys did actually manage to get another army general already, which is kind of annoying to me, but we will actually be fighting the settlement garrison here. Let's go ahead and pop this down onto one of our Spear Elf units, which is going to be okay. Gives them flaming attacks and plus 6% to their weapon damage, which is quite low. I'll try and transfer this banner out to someone else, but for now, let's go ahead and hit battle here. And we'll probably call it an episode after this one, but I'll just play this out real quick here. I was planning on cutting to when we started the fight here, but now what I do have to be careful about is if their reinforcements come behind me or something like that, could potentially be kind of annoying, but should be kind of fine without worrying about that too much. If I can do enough damage to the garrison that comes in afterwards, then we have a really decent chance to just automatically take the city without having to worry about even fighting to get it. If I do have to fight to get it, what we can actually do is just walk our archers up, have them deplete the garrison to nothing in an instant sort of thing there, and then continue on our merry way. Alright, so something like that. Stretch these guys out like this. The only problem here is that it sort of overstretches our radius for the banner here, since this is fairly... It's a good radius, but it's not like across the map or anything like that. Anyway. Their priestesses do bathe in blood, my friend. They bathe in blood in the middle of the battlefield while wearing very little clothes. They are very weird people, Dark Elves. Contemplating rotating our lines just a little bit so that we don't have random units popping up from the corner here. Get the feeling like they might be joining up their forces together and then waiting to attack us with both of them. I am, technically speaking, the attacking force, though, so generally speaking, they will attack me. I'm going to unleash our Phoenix here so I can figure out what's going on a little bit better. Probably don't need to move up, actually. Well, this will be fine, I think. They're there. Okay, so yeah, they are coming straight towards me. Just had to get a little bit of a confirmation on the distances there. Did also kind of want to rotate my army a bit there. Face down this direction here. Alright, so I probably don't have to worry too much about this particular army here. They do have the general, though, which is a little bit worrisome. Alright, so start switching our target to these guys. The bolt thrower there. Units getting shot are shielded, so they're not going to lose that quickly. Bolt thrower here, up to 3 chevrons, which is pretty fast. Let's attack these guys. Let's attack these guys. Get rid of them. Just have to make sure that we don't then have these guys go on a wild goose chase. So we'll just realign these guys afterwards. Yeah, there we go. Alright, up to 5 kills on this guy. I think this is more blobby right now. Alright.
Your life of darkness ends. Archers, understood. Acknowledge. Tyrion.
Alright, charge forth with Tyrion there. Let's actually charge this guy into the back of that unit there. Have these guys wipe out this unit fast. Silver chevrons with our bolt thrower. I don't actually need to kill Hexterion. He should automatically die in the resolve. Let's get these dark shards with shields here, maybe. I don't think that they get increased missile block chance or armor off of their malice ability. Our firepower is indeed our strength here. So I do kind of want their army to rally as much as possible. I don't actually want them to be running away. So the fact that their leadership has really improved is pretty good for us. Oh. Let's actually go after these guys right now. These guys are shattered at minus quite a bit. 22 manpower. Alright. So that's probably about as many as we're going to get realistically. Let's fast forward a bit. Just watch our eagle, our turkey catching guys, while it's raining down dark shards corpses. Oh, they managed to just dodge out of that one. I love the attack animations for this. They're so dumb looking. It's like a chicken. It really does look like a chicken sort of thrashing out around in like a water, or like a pigeon in a bird bath or something like that. It's kind of a dumb unit. Alright. So our lions managed to hold out quite well there. Some chevrons finally popping on our archers. I don't think we're going to catch that many more of these dark shards here. I just want to get them below 20. Not 100% sure what the breaking point is for these units to stop existing, but I think that's probably close enough. I don't know if it's numbers or hit points. Like, what happens if the entire unit still is alive, but they all have 1 hit point? Would that cause the unit to pop, or would it be if they all have, like, if there's only 1 guy left, even if he's full health? I don't know. Don't have any archers with 100 kills in a single battle yet, which is always kind of interesting when you do get that. 75 kills, though, on the repeater bolt thrower. Anyway, I think we're going to call this one an episode here. Should be able to just walk over to the city and slap it at this point in time, since they've only got 169 troops left in the garrison. So, should be pretty much fine. So we could actually get our units replenished back up to full again. Or we could kill them to gain experience. Ooh, charge bonus. That's going to be useful later, but not now. I'm going to go ahead and just replenish our numbers, just because we want to keep having those as high as possible as we sort of bump our way forward through this area here. So, once we've gotten that done, what we're going to want to do is take another level of this. What we're ultimately aiming for is to get Lightning Strike and to max out Quartermaster. Both of those are very, very useful skills for a general in this game. So, Wary could be good, but technically speaking, you can't get your Legendary Lord killed, so I don't think you can anyway. So yeah, this is high enough that I can probably auto-resolve it, but we'll deal with that tomorrow or in a different episode. So anyway, hope you found this one enjoyable, and of course, as always, hope to see you guys all next time.